Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Committee meeting. I'm Liz Schell, and I'm your chair. Councillor Neal is our vice chair. Councillor McLaren and Councillor Osanek make up the committee this evening. Councillor Turner's away. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have one vacancy. So it's going to get to be a bit of a small meeting at one point tonight. Councillor Osanek has to leave at 7, but we will still have our quorum. And we have quite a few staff members here. Our clerk Thompson. We have our director Laidman is here, director of housing. Commissioner Hurdle is here. Our city clerk, Mr. Bolagnone, is in the back. City solicitor Ray, manager Vendetti, planners Sands and Diedrichsen. So we have a big complement tonight. Welcome to everyone. We have a public meeting, so I will read the public meeting introduction. Notice of collection, personal information collected as a result of this public hearing and on the forms provided at the back of the room is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments may be collected and may form part of the minutes, which will be available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning, Building, and Licensing Services. The purpose of public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. Following presentations by the applicant, committee members will be afforded an opportunity to ask questions for clarification or further information. The meeting will then be opened to the public for comments and questions. Interested persons are requested to give their name and address for recording in the minutes. There is also a sign-in sheet for interested members of the public at the back of the room. No decisions are made at public meetings concerning applications unless otherwise noted. The public meeting is held to gather public opinion. Exemption to this rule is outlined in bylaw number 2006-75 to delegate various planning approvals to staff and to adopt certain procedures for the processing of planning applications subject to delegated authority. Council has authorized staff to use discretion in determining if an application can be a combined public meeting comprehensive report to expedite the approval process. Public meeting reports are provided to inform the public of all relevant information. Information gathered is then referred back to Planning, Building, and Licensing Services staff for the preparation of a comprehensive report and recommendation to Planning Committee. This means that after the meeting tonight, staff will be considering the comments made by the public in their further review of the applications. When this review is completed, a report will be prepared making a recommendation for action to this committee. The recommendation is typically to approve with conditions or to deny. This committee then makes a recommendation on the applications to City Council. City Council has the final say on the applications from the city's perspective. Following council decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and anyone with an interest in the matter may file an appeal. Interested persons are advised that if a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And we do have a public meeting this evening, application for zoning bylaw amendment, 174 Wilson Street, and we will have a presentation by the proponent.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. My name is Jennifer Guerra. I'm a planner with Foten Consultants, and I'm here tonight to present a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 174 Wilson Street on behalf of the owner, Burton Cornea. And this application has been submitted in support of a proposed semi-detached dwelling on a currently vacant lot. Pressing next. So the subject site you can see on this aerial photo outlined in red. It's located on Wilson Street, just north of Weller Avenue. The site is 466 square meters in size, has 19 meters of frontage on Wilson Street, The immediate surrounding context is primarily residential. Just north of the site next door, you have a fairly large but low, a 2-story apartment building. And to the south, there's an existing dwelling, single detached, 1.5 stories. Across the street, you have primarily single detached 1 and 1.5 story dwellings as well. Looking more broadly at the context, you do start to see a broader mix of residential uses, singles, semis, rows. There are a number of parks and open spaces, community facilities, schools. A bit further west, about 1 kilometer, you have the Division Street commercial hub just south of the highway. What's being proposed is essentially a semi-detached raised bungalow, so 1.5 stories. It'll be divided side by side. There'll be virtually mirror images of one another. Parking is being provided on either side in the respective side yards, 1 space per unit. The building has been positioned such that it can meet all of the minimum required setbacks. These are some conceptual elevations to give a sense of what's envisioned for this site. So in recognizing that the surrounding context is predominated right around here by 1.5 story dwellings, so mostly raised bungalows and side splits. So in recognizing that, the applicant is also proposing a 1.5 story dwelling in order to maintain that consistency with the established scale and form of the surrounding uses. The site's currently zoned 1 and 2 family A5, and we're proposing a site-specific A5 zone in order to support the proposal. This table provides an overview of all the applicable zoning provisions. And as you can see, the majority of them are being met, including the use itself, a 2-family dwelling, as well as height, front yard setback, side and rear yard setbacks, the lot width, number of parking spaces, dimensions of parking spaces, the location of parking spaces. We are requesting a reduction in the minimum lot area from 370 square meters per unit to 233 square meters per unit. And despite the requested relief, we do believe that the proposed lot area does provide sufficient space in order to accommodate adequate parking and private amenity space for both of the units. Because we're meeting all of the required setbacks and the built form at 1.5 stories reflects the surrounding context, the development we feel won't over-dominate the streetscape or negatively impact any of the adjacent uses. You'll also note at the bottom another requested relief. There is a general provision in the zoning bylaw that requires a maximum area of the side and rear yard that can be dedicated to uncovered parking, and that maximum is 30 square meters. We're proposing 32.4 square meters, so a little bit over. Now, just this past Tuesday, Council approved a number of citywide amendments to the zoning bylaw, including that provision. So while it's not in effect yet, because we're still in the appeal period, it will go up, we anticipate, to 40 square meters, in which case we expect by the time this proposal goes to a decision, it will in fact meet this provision. Property is designated residential in the official plan. This designation is intended to accommodate residential development on land that's fully serviced, including detached, semi-detached, or duplex dwellings, townhouses, and apartments. And the proposal is for semi-detached dwelling on fully serviced lands. There are a number of applicable official plan policies, which I won't get into in detail. There is a discussion within the planning rationale submitted with this application, but I will highlight a few. The site's located in a housing district, which is intended to remain stable, but will also accommodate reinvestment and residential infill, such as this. The OP encourages development opportunities while also protecting from incompatible development. And promoting compatible and desirable development in areas and at rates of change that won't result in a destabilization of the neighborhood. So we're proposing a 1.5 story dwelling between an apartment building that's 2 stories and a 1.5 story single detached. We feel this is an appropriate transition. It's a scale that reflects the established neighborhood and the development represents infill, and intensification, which is desired in the city, but in a manner that won't destabilize the neighborhood. In summary, the use is consistent with the broad direction of the OP, achieves residential infill and intensification goals in an appropriate manner, and will be compatible with adjacent uses. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
First, I'll go to the committee. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'd like, Ms. Dietrichson, I'm sorry, of course. Could I hear from staff, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, notice of the public meeting was provided in accordance with the Planning Act, and to date I haven't received any written correspondence or any telephone inquiries on this application.
Thank you. And now I'd like to open the meeting to members of the public. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? I'm seeing no members of the public who wish to speak to the application for 174 Wilson Street. Then I will declare this public meeting closed, and thank you very much for your presentation. And now I will call the regular meeting of the Planning Committee to order and ask for approval of the agenda. With the addendum, we did receive one piece of correspondence. Councillor Neal moves, Councillor Osanek seconds. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And confirmation of the minutes of Thursday, March the 2nd. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor McLaren. All those in favor? Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. I, Jeff McLaren, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Kingston, declare my pecuniary interest in the matter of Clause C, Report PC 17032, as I sit on several committees of the applicant corporation.
Thank you. So that's the King Street application. And we are going to have a staff briefing on 670, or a staff report on 671 Brock Street, I understand. Yes, Mr. Sands.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just would like to take this opportunity to provide a brief update with respect to the bump up site plan request. So in looking at the staff report, on page 39 of the agenda package and page 21 of the report itself, staff included all of the technical comments that remained outstanding at the time of writing the report with respect to the bumped up site plan. And I'll run through them very quickly as they were from several departments, including planning, building, utilities, Kingston Hydro, and you can see them all within the report. Since the report has been finalized, there has been ongoing correspondence between the applicant and city staff, and a third circulation or submission has been received, which has clarified many of the comments that are contained within your report. So just to run through them quickly, the planning department confirmation has been required that there is some functionality of parking space number 14, as there's a 6-meter drive aisle proposed adjacent to it. And on-site snow is proposed to be removed off-site, and that will be required and a condition within the actual site plan agreement registered on title. The building department has no further concerns at this time, neither does Utilities Kingston. The comments with respect to Kingston Hydro and where the servicing would be obtained from has been corrected within the resubmission on the third submission, so it is appropriate with their comments. The Parks Department does not require cash in lieu of parkland for this affordable housing project, so their comments have been addressed. With respect to the engineering comments and on-site works regarding grading, that is an issue, not an issue, but it's a technical aspect that is currently being reviewed by the professional engineer that has been hired by the applicant and our engineering staff. So that is, it is something that is still being worked out. An updated storm water management report and an updated noise report has been submitted to the city, who have confirmed the content and that all on-site noise impacts will be mitigated from the adjacent Kingston Hydro building. So there'll be no adverse impacts with respect to noise on this site. Garbage is to be provided to the curb as The site does not function for the large garbage removal vehicles that the city has. The next comment is from Stormwater Review. That's a subsidiary of Engineering Department. And again, those comments have been updated in the resubmission as an updated stormwater management report has been received. Kingston Fire's comments have also been addressed through the third submission. The Forestry Department has commented on the on-site trees, specifically the 11 trees, and there has been confirmation provided from the department that the applicant has the opportunity to pay in cash in lieu value at $350 per tree or replace and replant those trees in the new public park that is being proposed to the north of the proposed development block. So I believe just for your sake, it's parcel A identified on the exhibits, which shows the area that'll be future developed by a city park. So that has been an option and provided to the applicant through the technical review process. With respect to civic addressing, as you can see in the comments, there are no further updates, but that is an outline at how the 3 parcels or blocks that are proposed to be divided of 671 will be civically addressed. So the parcel in discussion for tonight will civically be addressed as 645 Brock Street. As mentioned previously, Solid Waste has provided confirmation that no vehicles will access the site and all garbage will be required to be brought to the curb. So I just wanted to provide that as a quick run through and update as to where staff are at with the third submission. We are still working through those technical comments as the commenting period is typically a week long and that's not closing until next week. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Neal.
Yes, a couple of questions that I did. These aren't ambush questions. I did ask these before. But as far as the site plan issues go, I know that the report shows some tentative landscaping on the rendering, and I believe there's a comment in there somewhere that more detailed plan will be forthcoming. Have we received that at this time?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Exhibit D is, I believe, the exhibit you're referring to, and that's the front elevation, which shows some landscaping features and trees along Brock Street. There is a landscape plan that has been submitted in support of the application, and it has been amended through the process of comments through the correspondence from Parks Development. It is available through Dash. It can be reviewed by the public. It has not been included as an exhibit in tonight's comprehensive report.
Great. I appreciate that. I've brought up in several other developments as far as water runoff issues go, and I know that there is a special rendering pavement now available that allows for water to not just pool, but actually slowly go through the pavement. Have we suggested that? I know that under the Building Act we can't demand that that happen, but have we, or could we approach the developer for that?
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. To that point, it actually is one of the last comments to be addressed. Engineering, as mentioned, the consultant and their engineer are working with our engineering department regarding on-site stormwater management. I think what you're referring to is permeable pavement, and it allows the infiltration on-site. It is a way in which on-site development can, on-site water can be reduced so that the pre-development equals post-development in terms of stormwater management. Great.
I appreciate that, and I'll forget that what it's called before the next time we have this conversation, I'm sure. The other thing I just want to comment on quickly, with the new rendering that came forward at the last public meeting, there were several comments about how ordinary looking the cladding and the siding were. And it does look improved in the new rendering here, but and there is a comment that I read saying that that there are cost implications, but the developer will look into the possibility of making that more appealing. Again, that's a site plan issue that is negotiable as I understand it, but do you have some confidence that like this is definitely a step in the right direction from what the original on screen was at the last meeting, but will we be able to, or will the developer take another look at that with the architect?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Again, Exhibit G is the most up-to-date rendering that we've received in terms of city staff and a facade. I don't want to get into all the specifics because I'm not an expert in architecture, but on page 28 of the report, which is page 46 of the package, it really does try to explain what the changes that were made from the architect from the last public meeting to date. And I can point out just a few of them. There has been modifications to the building materials. There's been modifications to the building facade colors that are proposed. Specifically, all the windows have been upgraded to a black trim, which is much more in keeping with the area. I think one of the biggest comments from the public was regarding a transparent parapet at the top, which would allow for some more insight and overlook from the users of the rooftop amenity space. So as you can see on Exhibit G, that has been something that the applicant has been able to incorporate and show through the renderings as to how that would be appropriate on the site. It does not carry all the way across the front. It's in the corners, and it does allow for a reduced visual in terms of building height from the Brock Street streetscape.
And that also came, I believe, as a suggestion from Accessibility Committee, that at least a member of the Accessibility Committee, that it would be more accessible for somebody in a wheelchair to be able to enjoy being on a rooftop patio with that. So the other question, and this is kind of leaving site plan behind, so if I can, people continue to ask about the variances on side yard and front yard setbacks. Yeah. And the question, I know that going from 32 to 29 has reduced the density number, but people in the neighborhood have still expressed concern about density and the high level of density. And is this an inordinate density number compared to other developments? If you could comment on that.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm just going to start by addressing the setback question. And I'd refer you to the site plan drawing in the report. I believe it's Exhibit E, and it outlines where the building is proposed on site. Essentially, the proposed building is shifted as close to the easternmost property line as possible, approximately 1 meter away, which is the Kingston Hydro building, as there's not deemed an incompatible use with that type of use on the neighboring site. The western side yard setback from the potential development block is 7 meters, and that's really to accommodate the drive aisle, as the vehicular access was altered. As you'll recall from the very first submission, access was proposed off of Napier to come in and service the rear parking area from that way. That has been since amended, and now we have full vehicular access from Brock Street, and that's shown in the westernmost interior side yard. The rear yard setback is substantial. It's approximately 15 meters. And that accommodates a 6-meter drive aisle, and it also accommodates full parking spaces at the rear from the park that's buffered in behind. I think one of the questions that came fairly loud and clear at the public meetings were the front yard setbacks and how they're not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and the surrounding development, along with density. And I'll get to density in a second. I just would like to point out the fact that the building is proposed to be set back approximately 4 meters. I think it's 3.93 to be exact, from the front yard, from the front lot line adjacent to Brock Street. It is very similar to the front yard setback provisions and setbacks of the other existing development in the neighborhood. However, they appear to be closer based on the substantive width of the Brock Street road allowance. So although the building on the proposed site is 4 meters setback from the front lot line, the distance from that lot line to the front edge of the sidewalk is approximately 4 meters as well. So the building will be approximately 8 meters from the edge of Brock Street's asphalt. So it actually is a fairly substantial distance away from the right of way, although it appears on paper to be smaller. So to the density question, and I think that's the one everyone wants answered. The proposed development is 29 units, and if you look at it from a numbers perspective only, it's 197 units per net hectare. We use based on our bylaws, we use a density calculation that only considers dwelling units. So, for example, this building at 29 dwelling units containing 29 bedrooms or less, because no dwelling unit in the building is proposed to accommodate 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, the density number looks large, 197. If you had the exact same building with the exact same density of 197 dwelling units per net hectare, you could have all 29 dwelling units with 4 bedrooms. So the number of occupants could actually quadruple, but your density number would be the exact same. It's solely a way in which we're measuring density. If we amended the way we measure density to really try and take into account users or occupants more effectively, it might be a more representative answer. So with that, staff are really reviewing the proposal based on a built form, as well as the numbers that are captured within that density calculation. And I think that's been explained fairly thorough through the comprehensive report.
Thank you. I've been whining for some time about how we need to start calculating bedrooms and not just units from all kinds of different perspectives. And I think municipalities that do that often have what appears to be a better handle on discussing development. So hopefully that's something that can come about. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up one other issue. I know that the size of parking for standard parking, like in a lot of developments, is somewhat reduced. And I'm okay with that, except I'm on MAC, the Municipal Accessibilities Committee, and they've brought up concerns about shrinkage. And I believe that the accessibility spaces conform with the current accessibility space. Is that right? We aren't shrinking them. But we may want to revisit that, or there may be a recommendation coming from MAC to revisit that, because more and more handicapped individuals that need assistance are driving vans, and I'm not sure that the standard size always fits all when it comes to people with those concerns.
Mr. Sands?
Through you, Madam Chair. As the applicant on the previous public meeting mentioned, we've brought forward to council just last week that modification to our accessible parking space dimensions to try and bring it into conformance with the OADA provincial standard. In anticipation of that, there has been some modifications made to this report. So prior to having that in the queue, this project complied with the minimum 3.7 meter barrier-free parking standard for the 2 on-site spaces that were proposed. Since the new AODA standard is anticipated to be in place and in effect in Citywide prior to the passing of this bylaw, we have had to make some modifications to the site plan. For the new provincial standard, if you're required to provide 2 on-site parking spaces that are barrier-free, you need 1 to be barrier-free type A, which is a van accessible parking space, and you need 1 to be barrier-free type B, both of which need to be accompanied by a 1.5 meter wide walk aisle. but the sizes are different. For example, type A needs to be 3.4, and type B, based on our bylaw requirement, needs to be 2.7 in width. The provincial standard is 2.4 for the type B. So with that, staff the applicant has requested a reduction in the type B parking stall width to 2.5 meters. That still exceeds the provincial minimum requirement of 2.4, and it still provides a 1.5 meter walk aisle that is shared with the type A space adjacent to it, which is fully compliant at 3.4 meters in width. Furthermore, the provincial standard does not require a depth or a stall length requirement. However, in our new AODA standards that we've brought forth citywide, they have included a 6 meter parking stall depth. The applicant has proposed a 5.7 meter parking stall depth for all of the normal parking spaces on site. So for consistency, they've asked for that to be reduced as well to 5.7 meters. So as you'll see on the site plan drawing, that has been accommodated in the new project, and it still complies with all the provincial standards and stipulations set forward through the AODA requirements.
So we're in full compliance. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Councillor Osanek has to leave us. We do have a staff recommendation. So I would like to put the report on the table. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor McLaren, seconded by Councillor Neal. And this is 671 Brock Street. Are there any further comments or questions? Then I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. And our second order of business is 311 Conacher Drive. It's a draft plan of subdivision and draft plan of condominium. Are there questions from the committee? There is a staff recommendation to approve. Could I move by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor McLaren? Any comments? No, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And now we come to 743 King Street West. Councillor McLaren has a conflict, so it's up to us. And this is something in my district. It has to do with severing a number of lots at the around the area of the Church of the Good Thief. And we do have a staff recommendation to approve.
Could I just make a very quick comment, if I might?
Sure.
In case the public are wondering, how can we still conduct business with just two people? 3 is quorum, but the rule is you can't lose quorum due to declared conflict. So the result is, it is us. Thank you.
And I can't move the recommendation. So actually, it's up to Councillor Neal. We do have a staff recommendation, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Schell. And other than congratulations, I'd like to call the motion, or call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. Great. We have no motions, notices of motion, other business. We did receive a piece of correspondence that was on the adits, and the date and time of the next meeting is April the 6th, that's 6:30. With that, I will call for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor McLaren. All those in favor, thank you very much.